after making the jump over to England a couple of weeks ago, we are back in Germany, back at the Nürburgring. Hello and welcome to the Drivers Parade Club LVE Championship Round 4 here at the Nürburgring Combined Circuit, and I'm joined by Connor Minnis. Hello, Connor.
Hi, then. Yeah, just looking forward to this. This is going to be a very interesting race.
We've got the Audi touring cars around this very long circuit. It's a 5-lap race, of course, otherwise we'd be going on forever, wouldn't we? But it's definitely going to be interesting to see how these guys get on.
Yeah, I mean, this is the longest track in the world and the longest layout of this track. So 5 laps of this is going to be grueling for the drivers. You know, it's not a very forgiving circuit. There's not very much runoff. You make one mistake and that could potentially be your race over. And obviously we've seen here in the past in real life and in virtual racing that drivers will get punished for just tiny little mistakes, and that back straight is going to be where we're going to see all the overtaking, I think.
Yeah, it certainly is. It's a very long back straight indeed, and rather interesting. We just had the Nürburgring 24 hours and there have been teams competing in that. So obviously there's going to be an element of, you know, these guys have already had plenty of training prior to this race, coming into this race, and they've had 24 hours to perfect, you know, their racing lines, the braking points, things like that. So do you think we might see different teams have more advantages compared to others?
Yeah, I think if a team is driven in the 24 hours, as you said, Adam, it's going to be much easier for them to jump back into this. Whereas if a team hasn't had any drivers doing that, they're going to learn it all for the first time. So I think it's going to be very interesting to see which teams cope with that, and if we might get any surprise results today.
Yeah, and just looking at the notes I've made, we've had 4 teams, I believe, that have raced in the Nürburgring 24 hours in the Audi touring cars, being Cherokee, DX Droids, Iridium, and Obsidian Racing. So they're going to have an advantage over their rivals, surely, coming into this race. We've obviously got 5 laps around this very grueling circuit, but it is most likely going to come down to who has the endurance to complete the race.
Yeah, it's definitely the concentration that's needed around the Nürburgring is unlike any other track, in my opinion. You know, it's so tight, especially when you're racing this close with cars that are designed to go wheel to wheel. It's going to be very interesting. We could potentially see some of the top runners, like Sporting Team, Competizione, and Obsidian Racing. If they have accidents today, their large point gap over the rest of the field could potentially come crumbling down.
Yeah, it certainly could. And if we just look at the Nürburgring 24 hours that we have had this weekend, we saw some guys getting quite racy, especially on the back straight, you know, a bit of bump draft going on. Do you think we'll see that today?
Down the back straight, I think we will. Obviously one of the easiest and probably most ideal places to overtake. I think the driving. I think throughout the rest of the course, I think they're just going to want to try and keep it clean. 5 laps of this track is a long race, and obviously if you get put to the back at the start, it's going to be extremely hard to make up positions.
Yeah, qualifying is certainly going to be crucial, and especially on a track like this, there's a lot of places where obviously overtaking is quite easy to do, and there's other places where overtaking is pretty much impossible. So it's going to be the key of seeing who, you know, has the best race pace and who can make their moves count.
Yeah, making those moves count is going to be so crucial, because if you can get past someone and break that slipstream, obviously they're all in the same car today. I reckon you could potentially make a couple places per lap, and if you're starting, say, middle of the pack, it's definitely not out of reach to finish it on the podium, which is good to see. It means that, you know, a lot of drivers will be in contention today.
Yeah, certainly. And if we look back at the last race that we had just a couple of weeks ago, Obsidian Racing, they come into this race with a, you know, they're still in the lead of the championship, but that has been cut massively. They came into Alton Park just a couple of weeks ago with a 19-point lead, and they now have a 6-point gap to Sport Team Competizione. So it's closed down a heck of a lot in that race alone.
Yeah, last time out was so hectic for all the teams at the top, really. I don't think there was a single one of the top 4 that wasn't involved in an accident with each other. So hopefully we get similar amounts of drama today. We see qualifying just getting underway here, 20 minutes around the Nürburgring. Obviously the sessions are going to be a lot longer today because the laps are so long. So we're going to see any slight mistake around the lap could potentially put you right to the back of the field. So there is definitely potential to see a last or first challenge for a couple of these top guys if they don't make a good job at qualifying.
And it is around a 9 minute lap time that they'll set around here. So if you look, we've got 19 minutes left. So they've only got really 2 laps to get a lap in, of course. And if they make a mistake, we're just watching one of the Iridium cars here. If they make a mistake on this lap, they've got to regroup. They've got to travel, well, unless they go in the pits, of course. They've got to go around the entire circuit and then try and go again and get another lap in.
Yeah, it's going to be such a demanding session, this one. It's so long for the drivers, and so they've got 20 minutes virtually, 18 and a half now, sorry, to wait until the actual race starts, and they have to try and put themselves into qualifying mode. And you know, doing that hot lap kind of mindset and scenario is draining. You know, it takes a lot of effort, a lot of concentration, and as you said, Adam, for 9 minutes, it's draining, and it's before they've even started the 5-lap race. So I think it's going to be a test of their endurance today, their mental endurance. I think we're going to see some surprise names come through the field, I think.
Yes, certainly, and I would just like to quickly correct myself on that. I said these guys would have 2 laps, and I believe they might just manage to get in 2 laps, but they will cross the line with around 9 to 10 minutes remaining. So it's gonna be on the edge of your seat. You know, some drivers might just cross the line in time to get a second lap in, but others might only be able to get 1 lap in. But as you say, Connor, it is going to be interesting to see if we can get drivers in who are further down the field in the championship. You know, really coming up, we had one of the AGT cars quite high up in practice that we've just had just then, and they currently sit eighth in the championship. So that could be crucial for their push to get into them promotion places to Division 1 next season.
Yeah, I mean, if we look at a team like Carbona Wacky Esports sitting in 6th, just outside the playoffs by 5 points. If one of the DX Droids racing cars in the team above them, if one of them has a bad qualifying and doesn't get anywhere in the race, that could potentially leapfrog them 2 or 3 positions up. And especially in the drop zone, I mean, some of the teams are only separated by about 5 or 6 points. So all it would take is one person per team to have a bad qualifying, and it could potentially completely shift up the entire field points-wise for the championship. And I think this race is probably going to be one of the most decisive of the whole championship. You know, it's such a different sort of layout and such a different sort of racing, especially in these Audi touring cars. I mean, they are built for this track. They'll handle it perfectly. The drivers have got to be so on it and make sure that they make no mistakes today. I'm sure they've put in a lot of practice, as you said earlier. I know about the 24 hours of Nürburgring. That's going to have greatly played into the hands of those drivers.
Yeah, it certainly has. Sorry, and I did say AGT were currently sat in 8th. They are actually sat in 12th. I was looking at my notes from the previous race at Alton Park, so sorry about that. They are 12th in the championship at the moment, so it is even more crucial for them to get a good result. But as you say, Connor, this is, it's a completely different essence of a race. You know, it is going to be still around 45 minutes, and it is only 5 laps around the circuit, but it is just like an endurance race. They've got this huge circuit to deal with, all these corners. They've got to learn every single braking point and get used to that. Try and perfect that around a lap. That is, it's one of the longest tracks in the world, and it is the longest track in the world, sorry, as you said. So it's going to be really tough for these guys to, keep pumping out lap by lap, perfect lap times.
Yeah, that's what I was saying about earlier, about how their mental endurance is going to be tested. To be able to keep that level of concentration for this amount of time is not an easy feat. Obviously, we see it in real life. People will just lapse in concentration, and all that takes here is then you're in the wall. And it's the same on the sim. The track is just as unforgiving. If you make one tiny little error or just slightly miss a braking point, it can put you in a wall, and you have a long drive back to the pits.
Yes, you certainly do indeed. And as you were saying, the mental capacity that these guys have got to have, it's going to be tough, and not just in terms of learning the braking points and things. It's going to be tough in terms of, fatigue. Are these guys going to get a bit tired as the race goes on? Their arms might get a bit stiff with the racing wheels that they'll have. Obviously these racing wheels are getting more professional as the years go on, and now you're looking at £1,500, sim rigs, and even further than that. So it's it's going to be interesting to see, the mental fatigue and obviously the physical fatigue that these guys could go through today.
Yeah, it's quite possible that we might see maybe some equipment failure, might overheat. This is a long race. It's very demanding on the wheel. Obviously, the track is very bumpy, um, so we could get plenty of force feedback, as you said, Adam, through these expensive setups that all these drivers will have to race at this level. So it's going to be interesting to see who's going to be able to handle their machinery the best.
Yeah, it definitely is. And if you just go back to what you were saying before, Connor, it's a completely different circuit to what these guys have been used to. Obviously, you can see we're on board with Jorge Diafa now, and you can see how close the barriers are. There isn't any runoff for these guys to, escape to if they perhaps get pushed off track, make a move that isn't quite on. If they go off track, they're going to find themselves in a barrier with a significant amount of damage, and it is really going to be, not necessarily pointless to try and make it back to the pits, but it is going to be hard to make a comeback from that if they make damage. You can see a little lockup there from one of the IDAP cars, and are we seeing these guys try and push the limits in qualifying? So then that obviously takes them into the race knowing where the limit is, knowing where the boundaries are.
It's every potential. A lot of these drivers wouldn't have driven this car very much if they haven't done the 24 hours of Nürburgring yesterday. Sorry. So I think, going back to what you said a minute ago, Adam, actually, about if they get damage early on in the lap, it's going to be extremely hard to get that car back in one piece. I think these touring cars are built to have a bit of door-to-door rubbing, but that's with other cars. If you put it in a wall, it's going to be like any other racing car. It's going to have serious performance drop, and they're going to lose place after place after place. And if it's as bad as you put it in at above about 50 or 60, I don't think they're going to be able to recover the car today.
Absolutely not. It is the longest circuit and the most unforgiving circuit in the world. How many times have we seen guys, perhaps in road cars, going around for a tour of the track and ending up binning it into the wall and writing off their pride and joy? And we could see that here. So it is really going to be, I'm really keen to see how these guys get on. And we've been talking about through the stream the practice that these guys have had. Well, some of these teams that in the 24-hour race just yesterday, and obviously the day before on Saturday afternoon as well. So that the track, the combined circuit, is going to be drilled into their heads, but perhaps not for the others. So we are possibly going to see these teams coming out with a bigger advantage compared to the ones who didn't compete in the 24-hour.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a pretty obvious gap. I feel like in qualifying, especially. I think once people start to settle in the race, I think we won't see it maybe quite as much. Obviously, all these drivers are of a certain caliber to race in this championship, and they would have all driven this circuit hundreds, if not thousands, of times. So I think obviously the radium car there of José Javier Buisson going slightly off there, and that's going to ruin his lap time. He's going to go back to the pits. He's only going to get one more opportunity for this if he can even get round in time to start his flying lap, actually.
He is going to have to be very quick, because
yeah,
I'm just looking at the timings here, and he hasn't managed to get a lap in. Obviously, there's 10 minutes left, so if he's going to go out, he's got to go out now. And that was, this is what we've been saying. It's crucial to get the perfect lap in straight away. You can't be, sort of messing around, and you've got to get in the zone as soon as the lights go out for qualifying. And we've just seen an example of that there, where a mistake's made, and perhaps that is the end of Jose Buisson's qualifying.
It's every potential for it to be. There's nothing to say that he won't be able to get round back in time, but if he doesn't, he hasn't got a lap time set currently, and that's him starting from the back, which is going to be absolutely gutting for the Iridium team. They're sitting in 4th position in the championship at the minute. They really need to start closing that point gap up to that top 3.
Yeah, they absolutely do. They have got quite a gap to DX Droids behind them. DX Droids, currently sit on 86 points, Iridium are on 111. But if you look at the top 3 at S2V Esports Academy, they are only 12 points ahead of the Iridium team. So there's the chance in this race to really push up and get into those top 3 positions. Obsidian Sport Team, they are still, quite a long way away. They're both sat on 188 and 182 points. So, but as we've seen in this championship, it can all change just like that. And around this circuit, it's, it's the perfect recipe for a bit of a disaster for some of these teams.
Yeah, and on the other hand, you've got some of the teams in the drop zone that will be reveling at the fact that those top teams could potentially have some issues as long as they keep themselves out of trouble. There's a lot of points to be gained here at the Nürburgring, especially as we said earlier with the concentration level required. Teams like Drive Through, TRC Racing, they're not even at 50 points yet. So this race is crucial for teams like that to get out, to really kickstart their championship. They need to do it now. This is the perfect race to do it, as long as they can keep clean. A lot of drivers I think we're going to see retire, or at least start a lot further back than they would want to. An example of that is obviously the Iridium Navy team of Jose Javier Busson. He's looking like he's going to be able to make it round. I think he's definitely out the pit lane. Hopefully he's going to be able to get round and start that flying lap for the Iridium driver. But some of the other guys that are in the pit lane that aren't going to be able to do it. The Obsidian driver, Rodriguez, he's sitting in third at the minute. He's not going back out. And 6th and 7th, the other Tononi's actually just left the pace. So you've got loads of drivers still sat in the pit lane that aren't going to set any better lap times. They just don't have time to get round, even with 8 minutes left.
Yeah, if anyone tries to leave the pits now, there won't be enough time to get a lap in. Sorry, I'm just looking at the timings now. The best lap is a 9:14. You can see it there on screen, 9:14.4. So if anyone leaves the pits now, they won't get around, and it's as simple as that, really. So, but yeah, as you were saying, Connor, obviously, the teams that are currently struggling, TRC and Drive Through, they haven't really managed to kickstart their season like they would have wanted. They've kind of both been just trading places at the bottom of the standings, and they really do need to try and get a good result this time round. They did have TRC did have a decent result last time. They finished, one of the drivers finished P7, but Drive Through, they really are struggling with a P14, P15 finish at Alton Park. So it is going to be a case of now or never, and we are, after this race, we'll be halfway through the championship. So we are starting to see, the teams who are going to be struggling come the back end of the season, and the teams who are going to excel.
Yeah, definitely. I think teams like you said out in TRC, they really need to use this opportunity of a slightly different format of race. Much longer than what we had at Alton Park, the track anyway. To really kickstart their campaign if they want to stay in Division 2. Simple as that. They are currently bottom of the table with along with Drive Through in 16th. Those two teams especially really need to get a move on if they're going to want to try and stay in the league.
Yeah, they certainly are, and that is one of the most interesting things about this league is the relegation promotion element that comes to it. So it's, these guys, it's a massive incentive to push for results, whereas these guys that are struggling at the bottom, they are really going to be wanting to push and try and get a late jump start to their season.
Yeah, and it's the same at the top. They want to keep that momentum going. They don't want to drop off. They don't want their rivals to start catching up to them. I think the front two have got a very nice cushion back to third. I think about 86 points, I believe. 62 points, roughly back to third. So they've got quite a big cushion, but they need to make sure that their results match their early performances, because otherwise teams will catch up to them in 1 or 2 rounds. It can change as quickly as that.
Yeah, it can. And I'm just getting the point standings, the point system here for this championship. A first place finish gets you 50 points, and a second place finish gets you 45 points. I'm just seeing a replay here of Jorge Diarca coming around the beautiful Nürburgring circuit and Rombauer at the moment. But yeah, just to go back to the point system, 50 points for a victory, 45 for a second place. So if a team gets a 1-2 here, 95 points, that is a huge boost to obviously their championship push. But around this circuit, a 1-2 finish, that is going to be quite difficult. You've even seen it around Alton Park with the F3 cars. We had Iridium Sport Team and Obsidian, I believe, all going for the win. And at least one of the cars came out, they had a poor result because of an incident that they had, which was pretty much unavoidable. And I think around the circuit, that is, a certainty that we are going to see cars in the wall.
Yeah, if drivers approach this race with the same aggression that they had on Alton Park, despite the cars being built a lot tougher than an F3 car, obviously, it's going to end in the same result, I think. As we're watching Juan Pablo Tononi here, who of course won the very first race in these touring cars in this championship. So he's going to be looking to try and capitalize on that form from the first round and make sure he puts his Audi on the front. I think this is his final lap now, and you can see at the front actually, first and second, it's separated by 0.006 of a second, around a 9.5-minute lap.
That is quite unbelievable. How to get that close of a margin from, between the lead and first place, it has just changed looking there. I wonder if that was maybe a glitch. He's now saying 1.2 seconds, so I wonder if Jorge Barrio has just gone a little bit faster. We'll have to obviously wait and see how that pans out. But as that is such a close gap. To hold that together through the whole lap is, it's crucial for these drivers to, obviously, as we've been saying, to perfect.
It's definitely going to be key. I think you're right there. I think Barrio did in fact improve as soon as I mentioned the gap, which is unfortunate. But he's now pitted back in, so he's done for the session. He's happy with that lap time, so he should be. It's a very, very impressive lap there to be 1.2 in front of any other driver. You can see actually, I think what actually happened was he beat out Garcia and Codina. You can see they're separated by 0.05. No, not 0.005, sorry. So that's even closer between second and third. And they're both still on the track, so they could potentially both improve still. It's going to be interesting to see which one of those come out on top. Obsidian Racing, however, they're not really where we'd expect them to be. Fourth and eighth, sorry. Eighth for Tononi as well, who I mentioned earlier, of course, won the first round in these cars. He's sitting in eighth. He's still out on track by the looks of it. I'm not sure if he's on a fast lap or not. Rodriguez is done though. He's 1.6 behind the leader in fourth. He's in the pit lane. The top five are in the pit lane actually. So it's going to be the guys slightly lower down the grid here to see if they can maybe cause an upset if they've got a good lap in them and potentially split some of the top guys.
Yeah, absolutely. We've currently got, well, as you can see on the time screens there, there's a lot of people in the pits at the moment, so it is just a select few that are still pushing and trying to get this final lap in with Borja Guimaran, who is currently in P6. He's on a fast lap now, so is he going to be able to go faster? It's going to be interesting to see how this pans out. There's 1 minute 45 left in this session. You can see using all the track just a little bit more there as he dips a wheel into the gravel and using all the curbs and things like that into one of the carousel speeds. So it's going to be very, very interesting to see how this lap gets on, Connor.
Yeah, he's currently, I don't think he's up on his personal best in sector 1 or 2. So I'm not sure if he's going to improve unless he has a brilliant sector 3. But he is currently, him and Tononi are the only two in the top 10 on track currently. So if they're on quick laps, they could potentially cause big upsets here.
Yeah, they certainly could, and it's obviously got 1 more minute left, and Borja Guimarães is currently on this massive long back straight, so he needs to get the best exit that he could onto this back straight. It looks as if from that screen that he is going to be coming towards the end. You can see the bridge there, so he's going to dip up this hill and then back down again into a sweeping left-hander. So it's now or never for the Spaniard, and he needs to get this perfected now if he's going to make up more positions.
Yeah, he's looking good through this third sector so far. He seems to have kept it nice and clean. Hasn't made any mistakes so far with Roland Baldwin here. You can see how smooth the inputs are there. Just tiny little adjustments as we come up to the line. He's given up. He's gone straight to the pit lane. So that lap clearly wasn't going to be improved, and that's, I think, our top 10 confirmed, unless Tononi has anything left in his Audi. We'll have to wait and see for him to cross the line, but the top 10, I think that's the whole grid decided now. And we can see there a brilliant lap from the Iridium driver, Jose Javier Buisson. They're up to 7th position after that accident at the start.
So let's go through the running order then for the start of the race. Jorge Barrio in first for Sport Team Competition. Brilliant lap from him, followed by Mikel Garcia. Alejandro Codina for Plus G Escuderia in third, followed by the first Obsidian of Antonio Rodriguez in fourth, with Ryan Nobert in fifth for Sport Team. Then it's the Cherokee PS car of Borja Guimarães in 6th, followed by Jose Javier Busan for the Iridium team in 7th, and Gonzalo Calvo in 8th.
Then in 9th, we've got the second Obsidian car. Bit of an upset there. Sure, he would have wanted to be higher. Juan Pablo Tononi, sorry, in 9th. Then you got Juan Carlos Martin in 10th and Inigo Bia in 11th. Caleb Haides in 12th for Iridium Motorsport and Jose Rodriguez in 13th for Era 41. You've got Alan Schneider in 14th and Augustin Blanco in 15th with Jorge de Vaza in 16th. You've then got Adrian Ariso Azacate in 17th and Javier Ramos in 18th. 19th and 20th, David Jimenez and Jonathan Zamora. Aita Esquero and Sergio Arenega in 21st and 22nd, respectively. 25th, Carlos Cabella for TRC. That's a slight improvement for TRC there. They're definitely off the back of the grid. It's a good start for them. 26th, Pablo Blanco. 27th and 28th, Carlos Ruiz and William Cabrera. 29th and 30th, Alejandro Trenor, Jaime Lopez Pietrero. And 31st, Jorge Vilches. And 32nd, Alberto Model.
So that is the grid then for the start of the race. We've got 5 laps ahead of us at the Nürburgring circuit, and who is going to come out on top? Will Obsidian reign once again like they did in the first round in the Audi cars? It's going to be interesting to see. The pace car is out, as you can see there. We're now on board with the man running in 2nd place, Mikel Garcia, for the AGT team. They need a good result who come into the Nürburgring in 12th place. They really need a good result here, and then the sport team comes to the young car. They will be confident that they can get a good result. Jorge Barrio currently on pole position as the pace car leads the cars down the long back straight. You can see dipped under the bridge and down the hill into this left-hander corner, so it's going to be very, very interesting and exciting to see who comes out on top.
Yeah, we've got the sporting team Competizione car leading us away here. Of course, not a grid start. These cars have always been led around, like in the first round. So it's a bit of a different start to last time out in the F3 cars for the drivers. We're going to potentially see a lot of action coming into where people try and file in. Obviously, you can see the track is barely wide enough for 2 cars at most points. You can see there's definitely no room for a third. So if anyone's looking for a move, they need to make sure they time it right. And could potentially take out a lot of drivers.
32 cars. When is Jorge Barrio going to pull the plug and make the move for the start of the race? It looks like he's pulled the plug now, and we are underway. Then the pace car is in. We're still currently on yellow flag conditions. There is the green flag. The green flag is being waved. Jorge Barrio's got off to a perfect start then. Mikel Garcia currently running in 2nd place. Is anyone going to make a move for the lead? It looks like Jorge Barrio's all well and good at the moment as they pull into turn 2. Antonio Rodriguez has moved ahead of Mikel Garcia for 2nd place. So it's the perfect start then for Jorge Barrio in the Sports Team Competition car, followed by Antonio Rodriguez, Mikel Garcia, Borja Guimarães, and then Alejandro Codina and Ryan Norbert are the top 6.
It's definitely a good start. They haven't been able to open a gap, but these top 3 are certainly pulling away slightly. You can already see there's fighting back. 2 cars going side by side there. Potentially looking at the inside for the 2nd sporting team car. Yeah, he's now onto the back of the first Iridium car. Iridium, of course, looking to break into that top 3 positions with this race. And you can see just having a look up the inside of that dark grey Audi. He's not going to be able to quite see the move properly through there, but that set him up badly out the exit. He's now under attack from the 2nd sporting team car.
Here he comes and round the outside looking. You can see there the action going on ahead of them. That was one of the Obsidian cars, Juan Pablo Tononi, going wide, a little bit wider out of that corner as they peel away then down the straight. And they'll head through the very fast kink, and they'll peel off into the combined circuit, the very, very, very tricky endurance track. Very short. You can see Jorge Barrio has built up a substantial lead already. And we'll watch him now then as he brakes, peels off left into the very, very tricky endurance circuit.
Yeah, they're off the GP circuit now, and here is where it's going to get difficult. I think these positions now are going to be where they're going to try and settle into and just make sure they switch on to that consistency mode now. The initial fight is over from the start of the race. They've just got to make sure that they keep it clean here. We can see just comes ever so slightly wide. I think that's the Obsidian racing car in front here. You just got to make sure that they don't do anything stupid this early on. You know, there's plenty of time still left in this race. You've got 5 laps around here. They don't want to pull the trigger too early on a move. They need to make sure that the track is ready to accept 2 cars wide. As I said earlier, this track is so hard to overtake on.
It certainly is, and we'll head up one of the longest straights of the circuit for the first time. You can see the chaos that is going on behind the leading pack, and there is 1, 2, 3 cars separated by barely a second as they dip over the crest into this fast right-hander and then into another fast right-hander, sorry. So as you say, Connor, it's just going to be a case of hold back for the moment, try not to make any silly maneuvers.
Yeah, we can see a couple of gaps already starting to work its way through there. You can see, I think that's from about 9th backwards there, about a second gap. You see the Iridium car chasing down that yellow and red car in front. I'm not sure what team that is, but they're so close already. You can see they're not giving each other any space at all. They're still trying to push for that position.
That is clearly Price looking for a move around the outside, but get it done. They're going to keep going side by side down this pretty fast flowing straight. He's got to watch here that he doesn't get squeezed out onto the grass and he'll potentially end up in the barrier, and it looks like he's just backed out of that, and I think that is a very wise manoeuvre from the Iridium car.
Yeah, and Iridium Motorsports was sitting in 5th, and that's an Aero 41 car. He's currently in 8th, so that's good for them. They're up at a competitive rate here. They're sitting in 10th and 18th respectively, so they're doing a good job to be able to hold it properly here. And you're seeing here Jesse Rodriguez for Aero 41. Currently in 10th. My apologies. So he's not quite on the back of that second Obsidian car, but he's certainly looking like he's sizing him up. He needs to pull away from that Iridium car if he wants to try and move any further up. He doesn't want to fight with him too much. Obviously, a track round here, the slipstream is so important down that back straight that you do not want to open up a gap to the car in front of you, whereas you will just get dropped. And I can't really see any way back unless the cars in front make a mistake. All the drivers in this championship are so close in talent and skill level.
Yeah, they certainly are, and you can see one of them corners, the Iridium car, making all kinds of shapes as it pulled out of fast right of this circuit. You can see the bump draft going on here with Mikel Garcia, one of the AGT drivers, currently looking to make a move as they head onto another one of the few straights on this circuit, and he's looks to the outside, but obviously nothing doing there. So it's as it was then. Jorge Barrio leads ahead of Antonio Rodriguez, and Mikel Garcia completes on the top 3. So this is a perfect result at the moment for Spartan Competition, and they're currently leading one of the Obsidian cars. So obviously it could be better for them. They're not going to make, well, they will make a 5-point around gap in the championship, obviously depending on where the guys finish for their respective teams. But at the moment, you can see that battle going on behind. This is for second place. Antonio Rodriguez under pressure from Mikel Garcia, one of the AGT driver cars. Is he making a stick down the inside? No, he's not. So these guys looking to make some quite interesting maneuvers at the start.
Yeah, and obviously Garcia waiting for AGT in 3rd. They're currently sat in 12th in the championship. So if he can keep this position, that is going to do wonders for them. It's going to definitely move them out of the drop zone, or the relegation zone, sorry. So that's it really, and that's what we were talking about earlier, Adam, is that if a lower team driver can get their qualifying right, this is what happens. They're in a leading group here, and there's contact between the Scuderia car, Alejandro Cadena. I didn't see who he made contact with them. Potentially going to be looked at in a minute for obviously just forcing him out of the way at the carousel.
Looks like possibly Gonzalo Calvo in the S2V Academy car. He pushed him out of the way into one of the carousel corners, so that was quite a risky manoeuvre, and it nearly ended in tears.
especially at a corner like the Carousel. I mean, that's one of the most famous and difficult to drive corners in motorsport. And he's just managed to save it and slots back into where he was. That's very, very impressive. From I think that's Norbert. I think that is for yeah, I think that's Norbert. I think currently running in fifth. So that was impressive to be able to slot back in like that after making that mistake. Normally you don't see that round here. Normally he'd be in about.
Yeah, it was very, very lucky indeed on the grass for a fair portion of time. And you can see the battle for 21st going on here. So that would certainly be a battle to keep an eye on. This is Javier Ramos in 21st with DHL Droids, looking to make a move on one of the TRC cars. The TRC, they will be trying to make up positions, or hoping to make up positions. Sorry, they're currently running in 19th and 20th place. So again, it's not the result they'd be hoping for.
Seeing Carlos Cabella falling from 17th, right off the bottom of our timing screen. So has he maybe gone off somewhere? I think we'll have to check back on him in a couple of minutes once we get some camera angles on him. But I think he may have made a mistake or maybe has some contact.
Yeah, I'm just looking here, and he has, as you say, dropped down the order. So it'd be interesting to see what happens to him. I would wonder if we'll find out at some point during the race. But you can see Mikel Garcia going for a move on the Obsidian of Antonio Rodriguez for P2 along this back straight. He's pulled out of the draft. Is he going to get the move done? Yes, he is. He pulls straight back in front, and now the Obsidian car will hope before he straightens to get into the draft again and try and pull ahead and move that position back.
See here, it's just a tiny bit of lag. Draft coming down straight as we go inside of Garcia's car. All this fighting though has allowed Barreo to open up a 2-second gap. So he's out of the slipstream now. So if he can keep what he's doing, he's going to be way into the distance, and I think it's going to be hard to catch him.
I bet he'll be laughing at the moment seeing them two guys behind him battling. Obviously AGT, not one of the championship rivals, but seeing the Obsidian car getting passed by Mikel Garcia, that will bring great joy to Jorge Barrio, I'm sure, who will be hoping that continues throughout the race. We're currently now riding with Jose Rodriguez in 11th place for Era 41 SRT, currently chasing down the Iridium of Caleb Hyde. Looks to the inside into turn 1 there, but nothing doing. He looked to the inside briefly, but he thought better of it.
Yeah, and you can see there, he compromised his line a little bit coming out of turn 2. He's just dropped back a tiny little bit, still in the slipstream range, but he got 4 wide there as he comes through into the second part of the Grand Prix circuit. I think that's an Era 41 car in the background there. We see going very wide. On board now with Inigo Bia for Cherokee. He's managed. I think he's come off the best of that fall. They're still going side by side in the background there. This just proves that even though the drivers need to be reserved and make sure they don't make any mistakes, they are not willing to give up these positions.
They're certainly not. And the Era 41 car of Juan Carlos Martin probably came out with the worst of that. He dropped quite a few positions in that battle, and we're looking on board then with Jaime Prieto in one of the SUV cars looking for the battle for 25th place, and couldn't quite get the move done into that hairpin there, but they'll be hoping as these guys pull on into lap 2 onto the once again the tricky endurance circuit, that he can try and get this move done around the lap.
Yeah, he's going to be constantly on the back, just waiting for any slight mistake to pounce and make that position his. As we cut back to the leader now, a solid 2-second gap. Barreo has managed to pull to Garcia. Sporting Team Competizione currently leading this race with their other driver in 5th, so they're doing pretty well at the minute. Obsidian Racing, there of course their main title rivals, currently running 3rd and 7th. With Rodriguez and Tononi respectively. Tononi, I think, is going to be a bit disappointed with this start. I think he expected from qualifying to be a bit higher and certainly make up a couple of positions in the race, but so far he's been quite placid.
Yeah, he has, and it's quite spread out between the championship leads. We've got Jorge Barrio and Norbert running first and fifth for Sporting Competición, and we've got Luis in third and eighth, and then we've got Iridium running seventh and tenth. So that won't be doing them any favours when their championship rivals are running ahead of them. But then just looking at DX Droids, they are currently in a battle. One of their cars is running on 26th, and another in 27th, it looks like. So Iridium, might drop back from the two ahead of them in the championship, but they might make up ground on DX Droids who are behind them in the championship. And you can see Inigo Bayard looking for a move on 14th place in this race on one of the Carbona Waka Esports cars, Adrian Asagati. So it's going to be interesting to see how that battle goes.
Yeah, there's so many battles to keep track of here. There's so many drivers that are out of position from where they want to be, and they're making their way through the field. But as we've said multiple times already, he's looks for a move there potentially. He said already, overtaking anywhere that isn't on the back straight or on the Grand Prix circuit is so difficult and so dangerous. You can see a bit of a train here forming behind, I believe that's Norbert, I think in 5th position. And potentially see some impatient moves coming from maybe some of the one of the Iridium drivers, or maybe even further up towards there. I think it's Galvin Calvo in 6th. And then Norbert in 5th, so there's potentially going to be more drama here if he doesn't get a move on and release this train.
Yes, I mean, if this carries on to the back straight, we could be in for a huge slipstream train forming even more, with the bump draft being so crucial around here. As you can see, coming down into this twisty part of the circuit. There's contact there between the Iridium car, and that was Norbert going off and gone wide. Jose Javier Buisan collects him, as you can see on the replay here, just collects him as he comes back into the track. Nothing you can do about that there, but I wonder if the Spaniard's got damage to his car. I'm sure we'll see as the lap goes on his affects his performance, but not the best for Norbert, who will continue to drop down the order.
I think you're right. I think he might have damage. He did not fight that at all. He's losing positions. He's got his teammate behind him now. He needs to make sure that there's no drama with him. He's fighting back. He's not letting them have these positions. He does want to try and stay in this race. He's going to avoid pitting in at all costs. And I think, you can see there he's letting his teammate through on the inside. Doesn't want to let that. I think that's SVT car just behind him. You can see. I think you're right. He does have damage. I don't think there's any way he's going to be able to carry on unless he comes into the pit lane potentially, but that's going to drop him right down the order. So that's bad news for Iridium and their title and their promotion position hopes. They've still got another driver going in 8th, but losing the teammate when it's this close is so bad for them.
Yeah, it certainly is. It looks like that could be curtains for JJ Buisan in the Iridium car, and obviously, we saw it a couple of weeks ago. Iridium just not having the best of luck at the moment with cars around them, and they'll be hoping that they would have come into this race hoping that they'd be getting a strong result. Both cars are in the high-scoring points positions, but it looks like the moment Buisan is currently dropped to 11th. So has he managed to get that car going back up again, back and running? At the moment, it looks like that is the case, but it's been a bit of a disaster for him so far, and you can see Borja Vilches going for a move around the outside into one of the carousels there. It's a good move from him, but as I was saying, it's not going to be the best result for Iridium.
No, it's not looking good for them at all, but a team that are going to be happy with where they are currently are AGT. They're still sat in second with Class there is a 2.1 second gap to the lead. But he does have about 6/10 back to 3rd. Obviously Rodriguez for Obsidian. So that for AGT is so crucial. We see the other the Obsidian car actually going quite wide there. So that's going to open up the gap even more. So about 0.8 of a second now. So yeah, AGT must be absolutely licking their lips at the fact that a couple of the top teams are out of position.
Now we're just starting to see a few cracks starting to form in this race. We've seen a couple of drivers just then. Obviously, Antonio Rodriguez going very wide. I always start to see some drivers sort of start to fade away in this race. It's obviously, we're only just about closing up to 3 laps in the race, so it's, sorry, 2 laps into the race. But it's, you know, we've seen a couple of drivers making mistakes on just this lap alone.
That was William Cabrera, sorry, going into the pit lane. I think I saw on the graphic there, so he might have contacted maybe some damage that's not savable. Jose Xavier Busson in 12th, the second William driver. He's dropped about 10 seconds from where he was, but he hasn't dropped any more positions in about the last half a lap. So I think he's maybe that car is drivable at least. Let's see, I think that's Gurman's dropping down the order. I'm not sure what's happened to him. You can see him dropping down the chart there.
So I wonder if he's had an off somewhere. This is Caleb Hyde looking for a move on Jose Rodriguez down the long back straight into. We'll see in a moment them go underneath the bridge. You can see how closely Australia is getting to the back of that error force on SRT. How they come through and sweep. And he's got to be careful not to get anyone close to control of his output. Making all kinds of shapes as they come towards the end of the lap, and he's just holding off at the moment, Connor.
Yeah, coming down through that last section of the lap there was very, very sketchy. As Jorge Barrio in the lead with 2.5 seconds. Gap back to second, sets a 9:14 as a new quickest. So he is just lighting the times up here. He's got no one in front of him, no one really pressuring him behind. As long as he can keep it clean and keep pumping out these laps, this is going to be an easy win for him.
Yeah, it certainly is. He's led at the moment so far from start to where we are now. He's got a 2.5 second gap lead, so he'll be in a comfortable position, but he's around this circuit. He can't get too comfortable. Obviously, we've got Miguel Garcia and Rodriguez battling behind for second place, but he can't lose his concentration around this circuit. It's not one of those circuits where you can kind of just fade away just a touch, because as soon as you do, you dip a wheel into the gravel and you're off into the barrier.
Yeah, and we can see there's about 4 or 5 drivers all coming to the pit lane there. So we were right about Busonin for Iridium. He's now in the pit lane in 23rd. Azacate, Ruiz, and Gurmans as well, all in the pit lane. Hopefully, we're going to see them come back out. That's going to be a bit of an interesting fight between some very quick drivers down the back of the field to see if they can maybe scrape some good points for their respective teams. But we're watching here the battle for second now. Rodriguez is close right up to the back of Garcia obviously in the AGT team. So the Obsidian car is going to be looking for a move. I think he might be having a look into the next section after the Grand Prix circuit. He's definitely sticking right on that back bumper. He's not giving Garcia any room to breathe at all. He's making sure that if he makes even the slightest mistake or a little lockup, he's going to be right there to claim that second position.
Absolutely. After that, slight mistake that the Obsidian car made, he's really close back up to the AGT car. So I wonder if the AGT car is just sort of struggling for pace a little bit. I wonder if he kind of needs that Obsidian car just to push him along and keep, obviously pressure is a good thing in some way, some kind of way. So I wonder if the AGT driver is coping well under that pressure, and I wonder if that's what he needs just to keep pumping in these good laps that at the moment, obviously we're 2 laps into the race, we've got 3 laps to go, and on board with William Cabrera, there's a battle going on there, so it looked like there was a little bit of contact there, but I'm not 100% sure, but both obviously lucky if there was contact made not to come away with damage.
Cabrera as well has made a strong restart to his race after his damage, and I'm guessing the accident he had early on. He's sat in 17th. He was down in 24th not a lap ago, so he's made up a lot of positions coming out of this pit lane, coming out at the end of this lap. Sorry. From watching here, he's right on the back of that ABR car. he's certainly looking to make his way back up to where he was.
Yeah, he certainly is. Hopefully, here, one of the fast straights down the hill through that very fast right hand, it dips down and then it goes straight back up. Doesn't look like he's managed to make. Maybe I'm just looking at the screen here. Doesn't look like he's been able to make that move, so obviously that'll be a battle to keep an eye on as the race goes on, but this gap now between around this P5 to P10 has sort of widened out a little bit, so I wonder if these guys are starting to just maybe get into the road rhythm, maybe drop back a little bit, and then obviously plan to push back at the end of the race.
They're tyre wear as well. If they've been fighting for the last 3 laps, their tyres are going to be significantly more worn than someone who, for example, Barreo, who's not really had to defend at all. He's just been driving his own race. He's going to be able to attack those tyres. But someone like Garcia and Rodriguez, second and third, they've been defending and attacking respectively pretty much since the very start of the race. So you've got to make sure that I think Barreo here has got it, as long as nothing goes drastically wrong for him. But we're going to have to wait and see, because anything can happen at this point. The Nürburgring is so unpredictable.
It certainly is. In that moment, no one could guess. Maybe Jorge Barrio, could he make a mistake in these final couple of laps that we've got ahead of us? We're right on board with him now. Just watch and see how he goes through this section of the circuit, and just see whether he looks uncomfortable dipping a wheel into the grass there. I'll be hoping not to do that too much as he goes around the lap, and that Audi looks absolutely stunning around the picturesque Nürburgring circuit, and you can see there, it looks like he's got everything under control, and he's setting pretty solid that time.
Yeah, he's currently got fastest lap, I believe. And you can see he has got a 3-second gap, which is comfortable. But if he was to make a slight error, or maybe even a spin, Garcia will inherit the lead very, very quickly. So he's not a safe distance in front if he was to make a mistake. So again, this is definitely not guaranteed for the sport team competition driver. The AGT, as I said earlier, they're going to be ecstatic at how their driver, Mikel Garcia, is doing currently.
Absolutely, and there is no room for error, and this battle for P2 is still raging on, and you can see how close Antonio Rodriguez is getting. The gap is currently 3/10. You can see on screen there, it's just gone up a little bit as they've gone through that corner, just up to just under 4/10, sorry. So this battle, it looks, unless obviously one of them makes a mistake, is going to go right to the very end as they come through the first carousel. Yeah,
well, obviously we're leading up to the main back straight in a couple of minutes. But that is going to be interesting to see if Rodriguez takes the move, or if he just decides to bump draft him. We're just over halfway, I think, through this race. So there's still plenty of time for the Obsidian driver. He's actually got his teammate Tononi behind him. He's made up about 5 positions, which is very, very impressive on his behalf. That's more the sort of pace we would be expecting, but that gives Rodriguez a lot of cushion behind him. There's a 12-second gap to the car behind him, and it's his teammate, which is exactly what Rodriguez will want to hear. So if he pushes Garcia to the limit and he manages to get past him, I think it'd be better to leave it towards the end of the race. He's got nothing to lose here. He's still on the podium. Garcia doesn't seem to be pulling away from him yet, and the cars are only going to get lighter and faster as the race progresses.
Absolutely, and I'm just thinking, and as you were talking there, Connor, Obsidian currently running P3, currently running P3 and P4. The sport team, yes, if they win the race, obviously, good result for them, but Obsidian, they're going to come out of this race, if it stays as it is, with an even bigger lead than they came into the race. So Norbert, I'm just looking at his standings. Has he retired from the race? He has. He's out the race. So Jorge Barrio, he's got to maximise the points that he can get, and at the moment he's doing so, but he needs one of them Obsidian cars to sort of drop down the order a bit.
Yeah, I think this is best case scenario currently for sport team competition. Yeah, considering that one of their cars is out, the other car is leading the race. So this is the most amount of points they're going to get from this event, and I think they're going to really want to hold on to that. I think they're probably telling Berea to just get it home now. You don't need to worry, setting the quickest laps. Just keep that gap at about 3 seconds and just get it home in first because your teammates out. It's going to be so important because they are obviously title rivals for Obsidian. Like you said, Adam, third and fourth is going to massively outclass the Sport Team Competizione car points wise coming out this event. So it's going to be such a crucial event for Berea to finish.
Yeah, absolutely is, and he just needs to keep pushing. The gap has just gone down just slightly to 2.8 seconds. We're currently looking at battle for P10, I believe, and Juan Carlos Martin in Area 41 SRT car. Look at the speed that he has got along this back straight, and he's got a couple of positions. As long as he can stay ahead, and it's going to be wheel to wheel coming into the end of the lap, and is he going to pull ahead? Yes, he is. David Jimenez just backs out slightly and thinks better of, trying to put in the fact. You can see how narrow this part of the course is. He just thought that he's going to get a slipstream, he's going to come into the pits. So David Jimenez pits, and he's going to go for the undercut then on Martin to try and grab P10 back. So we'll see how this pit stop goes.
And Barreo's in the pits as well. So he's gone in before Garcia. This is Garcia's opportunity now. He's got half a second gap to Rodriguez. If he can pull the quickest lap of the race, there is a potential here for an overcut from the AGT team. So they're currently leading the race with Obsidian second and third. Obviously, none of them have pitted in yet. So it's going to really depend on who gets their quickest out and done first. It's going to be so close, I think, because it was only a 3-second gap. He wasn't leading by a considerable amount, like I said a little bit earlier on. So I reckon it's definitely possible for Garcia to overcut him here.
Yeah, it certainly is. And if Barrio makes a slight mistake, 3 seconds, that is, that's easy to make up, especially on this circuit. If you make a mistake, it's likely that you're going to lose, at least a couple of seconds, I would say. So Barrio just needs to be careful on this outlap. He doesn't need to push too much. Obviously, his tyres are going to be slightly colder, but obviously they're going to be fresher. Then obviously once Garcia pits, he's going to have the much fresher tyres the final couple of laps in this race. We've always got 2 laps to go. So Garcia, you can see the battle for what is P1 technically at the moment, battle for P2 Rodriguez, all over the back of Garcia at the moment. So, but yeah, once these guys pit, they're going to have 1 lap left in this race to go out and get those new tyres, really make use of them.
You see the battle here for third, fourth, and fifth. The Area 41 cars have really caught up to the back of Cadena and Tononi. Obviously, Tononi is about 11 seconds behind the leading pair. So the battle for third is certainly on now. I think after the pit stops, it's going to be interesting to see when these 3 pits. Slight mistake there from Cadena. Doesn't seem to have got too many time though to the back of the Obsidian car. Just quickly to Garcia and Rodriguez for what is first position at the moment. They really need to not fight each other. Obsidian especially is going to want to try and finish in front of that. Rodriguez, sorry, is going to really want to try and finish in front of Moreno. But we're just going to have to wait and see if they can hold off from each other, or if they are going to push each other right to the end of this outlap.
Yeah, I would say if they were going to be battling for what is at the moment P1, effectively P3, as we can see here, Tononi under all kinds of pressure from Cadena. Cadena looked for a move, but once again thought better of it. We've got, a lot of people are in this grid with a wise head on them, so obviously picking, choosing the perfect moves to make around this very long circuit. But going back to that battle for P1, as you were saying, Rodriguez just needs to sort of have sit behind Garcia on this lap and trigger on the final lap of the race and really push to try and get P1.
Yeah, definitely. And just quickly back to this third position here. I think that's Tononi goes slightly wide coming into that turn there. You've got Cadena still right on his bumper, giving him no room at all. These guys are fighting for position. Remember, none of these three have pitted in yet. They are all going to have to pit in this lap, so it's going to be interesting to see who comes out in front. Rodriguez is sitting just slightly behind them. Currently, he's just, if those two come together, Rodriguez has got plenty of time to react and take that third position. I think he's playing the smart game here and just staying back a little bit, making sure he's not right on the bumper of Cadena, which is very, very interesting to see that he's playing a little bit more reserved than the rest of the drivers in front of them.
Yeah, I think, just thinking there, are these final couple of laps going to be the point where we see these guys really start to push? The conservation stage of the race is over. We obviously had the start where everyone was trying to jumble for positions, and then it went into the conservation phase. Are we now about to see the very, very racy phase in this event? And we can see we've got a battle for, technically a battle for P2, a battle for P3, so it's anyone's game here.
Yeah, any three of these drivers could potentially take third position, and again, it's all going to come down to how well this pit stop goes for them all, and how well they can react to, obviously, that if they only get one lap on these new tyres, so they're going to be cold, and that could potentially add to the pressure of it, and we could potentially see it coming together and promote someone like Rodriguez, who's currently in 5th for SRT, up to 3rd, and then that would obviously bring Martin of the other SRT car up to 6th, and for SRT, that would be an incredible amount of points. That would jump them up into the playoff places from where they are, which is currently 8th. So they are in a very strong position currently, and you can see there Cadena going past Tononi. Cadena going past Tononi of Obsidian Racing. Didn't really seem to fight it there a whole lot.
Yeah, he didn't. I picked up on that as well. He didn't really seem, so I just seemed to let him pass. So I wonder if he's maybe just going to try and sit behind Cadena in this final section of the lap. Obviously, we're getting to the closing stages of this race. We're getting to the closing stages of this lap, and you can see there. I always like the carousel as a reference to know when you are getting to the final point of the lap whenever I'm racing around this Nürburgring combined circuit. But yeah, as you said there, Tononi didn't really put up a fight against Cadena.
Yeah, it's interesting to see that Rodriguez of SRT is still on the back of Tononi. He's not fallen away from those two at all, but he's still keeping that about half a second gap back to them, not really putting any pressure on. It's going to be interesting here to see if he does anything on this back straight or not.
Yeah, it certainly is, and it's going to be a very close battle indeed. The gap is has just gone up 2 tenths. It's now at 7 tenths. I was just about to say it was 5 tenths, and then it suddenly jumped. So I wonder if there's been a little bit of mistake from the Obsidian driver, but they will be coming up towards this back straight very shortly. So is he going to just sit behind it, or is he going to try and pull the trigger and make a move on that back straight and take what will be first place effectively for P2? So they will pit at the end of this lap. So is he just going to try and sit behind and just wait until the final lap of the race to make the move?
Barreo currently 27 seconds behind Garcia. Is that going to be enough, or will Garcia have pulled an absolute weldy and managed to overcut the guy who's led from the very first second of this race? I think Rodriguez, he's backed off him a little bit. I think there's now half a second gap. Rodriguez of Obsidian Racing, I should say, has dropped off the back of Garcia a tiny bit. As we're watching him here, he's not right on the bumper of him, but it's going to be so interesting to see which of those three, of Garcia, Rodriguez and Barreo, come out in first at the start of the last lap of this race.
Yeah, absolutely is, and it's going to be so close to see. If I was in Barreo's shoes now, I would be very, very worried indeed as they pull onto the very long back straights for the penultimate time. But yeah, if I was Barrio now, I'd be very worried because he's not going to know what kind of lap Garcia is putting in. He's going to be, I think, he'll be quite anxious. You know, if he comes along the home straight and see Garcia pulling out of the pits ahead of him, I think he'll be very, very gutted indeed.
Yeah, we can see we're going 3 wide here, coming into them. They all fired in sensibly. That's good to see. And the error 41 SRT car, Jose Rodriguez, still sitting on the back of that Cadena, sorry. Still not really pushing the 2 cars in front of him, just playing the waiting game as they should all come finding into the pit lane now, and they do. All 3 of them come in. This is going to be very interesting, and Garcia's in as well. So and Rodriguez, of course, all the top 5 will come in with 1 lap to go. It's just going to cut each other up slightly there. It's going to be such a tight entrance here with Barreo. Of course, we're going to keep an eye out on him coming down the home straight. Is Garcia going to get it? The Obsidian car's out first. Rodriguez has jumped Garcia in the pit lane.
So Rodriguez, you can see that Barrio retakes the lead, but that, as Rodriguez leaves the pits, that gap is now 1.1 seconds. And what has happened to Garcia in the pits? He's dropped down.
He's still in the pits.
Yeah, he's still in the pits. He's dropped down to 7th. So that is a disaster.
I think
for Garcia, the
must have
AGT
had
driver.
Damage that we just didn't pick up on, maybe.
He must have. That must be the reason. That must be the reason he's dropped to 9th. And this is a disaster. He'll be fuming in the pits. He leaves now. And well, I've got to say, I'm gutted for the AGT driver Kai, who's putting in such a stellar race. And at the moment, Barrio leads from Rodriguez, and you can see on your screen now with Kel Garcia, he comes out and he is down in P11. That is a disaster for the AGT team, who will have been so happy with where he was running.
He's now behind his teammate Schneider in 10th. So Schneider's been just kind of pootling around doing his own thing, and he's still in front of his teammate. So I generally have no idea what happened to the cars. There is in between Hyde and I think that's Prieto. That's the battle for 16th. So they need to be so careful coming down into turn 1. We're going to get another replay here. Coming out of turn 1 into turn 2 was where the contact was. You can see here, Hyde has the inside line. He isn't quite in front of Prieto. We come down. He is in the braking zone though. See, Prieto goes wide to try and get the cut back on him. Hyde defends the inside line well, but then cuts quite sharply across. And luckily, there wasn't really any bad outcome from that. No one really spun around, so I'm not sure that will go any further. But they need to be so careful on this last lap of the race. They do not want to throw all those points away for their teams away now.
Absolutely not. And these guys are currently running P16, P17. So once again, Connor, these guys have, well, Caleb Hydes especially, he's come up quite badly in the pit stop phase because he was running, around P8, P9. So I wonder what's happened to the Australian driver. Has he had some damage as well that we've not picked up on? But it's not been the best race for Iridium. Jose Javier Bizan, he's dropped. He's currently he's out of the race, I should say.
Yeah, so he's 1 lap down. Yeah, I didn't see that.
And now Caleb Hydes, he's currently running in P16, so if it stays as it is, it's only going to be a 12-point finish for the Iridium team. And I'm just getting a message here. Caleb had a 40-second penalty in the pits. So, yeah, that's
dropped him all the way down the order. That's gutting for the Iridium team. I think, having 1 car unfairly taken out, of no fault of his own, and then obviously Hyde's been given the penalty. But back to the front at the minute here. Antonio Rodriguez in 2nd place, 1.7 seconds. I can't see that gap coming down too much over this last lap unless there is a mistake, and there was actually a slight lock up there from Barrio. Rodriguez has got Tononi behind him, so Obsidian are running 2nd and 3rd in this race. That is going to be absolutely brilliant for their points haul today.
It absolutely is, and they're going to come out of this race with a huge lead in the championship. And I was told just then Connor Kelly Hyde had a 40-second penalty for speeding in the pit lane, and I believe that Mikel Garcia had the same. So
Right.
yeah, so it doesn't look like it's damage. It looks like it was a penalty, and has he just been too eager to get into the pits? And yeah, he's going to be disappointed with himself, I'm sure, if he's got that penalty, and all that hard work has been undone after running in second place for so many laps.
Yeah, for AGT, I mean, they're running 10th and 11th. It's still a good points haul. It will still move them out of the relegation zone, I believe, with the amount of points they'll get in comparison to the other teams around them. But it's not the second place that it was looking at, and they're going to be so gutted that they've lost out on that amount of points. That could have really put them in contention to be a solid midfield contender, maybe even looking at the playoffs. But now they're back down to where they were, and I think they really need to have a good look at what happened and really improve that for next time, because they cannot afford to throw that amount of points away, especially in a fight for relegation places.
Yeah, certainly, and obviously, as you said, it's a good result, but it is a case of what could have been, and I really got to have sympathy for them. But then again, you've got to think, as you said, they can't be making these mistakes, and what if that was for the win? What if it was both of their cars up there? They would have dropped huge points, and they have done. They've dropped. Well, it's 45 points for second place, so they've effectively dropped 45 points that they could have had in coming out of this race.
Yeah, that's gutting for them. That's really, really not what they needed coming into this race. Obviously, they finished P30 and P28 in the last event, and to come second this time would have boosted that so much. But again, we're just going to see a replay here of, that was close. Carlos Ruiz for Banzu Esports manages to get past. I think that's the Chisbert.
Yes.
Just made a mistake.
I was just gonna say, I whilst you were talking there, I saw that happen. I jumped. Where I'm standing at the moment, I tried not to shout there, because that was so close to huge contact, and that would have been a disaster on the last lap.
You can see actually on the back of Carlos Ruiz's car is a giant dent. Well, I think wheelchairs may have gone into the back of him at some point. You can see there on the gold chrome kind of sort of paint of that Banzu Esports car. You can see the giant dent in the blue. So this is going to be interesting. This is the fight for 14th currently, so there's still points for these guys. They're currently quite far in front of the guys behind, which is the Riddim driver of Ides in 16th. With Prieto behind him, with another 3 seconds behind him. So there's quite a nice gap. I don't think we have to worry about him. These guys are going to have to fight it out and try and keep it clean. You can see here Kelly Hyde's in 17th after obviously adding that penalty that you were informed about, and I can't really see them being very happy coming out of this race with that.
Yeah, I think they'll be perhaps kicking themselves with that. Obviously, JJ Buisan, he had an unavoidable error, really. But then Kelly Hyde's, he had the pressure of the team to get a good points haul, and ultimately he's been into the pit lane, and that's what's cost the Australian driver in this race. And he'll be disappointed with himself, but it is going to be a case for the team to regroup coming into the next race in just a few weeks' time. I'm looking at the calendar at the moment, and it's Hockenheim Ring, so we stay in Germany, and there's a battle going on for there. Alejandro Cadena looked like he got past Rodriguez.
Muscle passed him as well, I think. It looked like Rodriguez was pushed wide. Let's just see what happened here.
On the grass, he was just on the grass there.
Yeah, okay, so I don't think there was actually any contact. I think maybe Cadena just pushed him a little bit too far and spooked Rodriguez a little bit, because he made him back out. This far into the race, you're running in that position. The last thing you need is to spin or have any more contact. So I think Rodriguez was just playing it safe there and just handed the position to an aggressive Cadena.
Absolutely. I wonder if perhaps he maybe did have a slowdown penalty because you saw him go off track slightly there, but obviously we won't find that information out, whether he had a slowdown penalty, whether he just let him pass, but obviously that would make sense. Just let him pass and tried not to fight too much because he still does get a decent amount of points in this race, the Era 41 SRT car. But we see here then, Jorge Barrio, he's led effectively from start to finish, and he'll cross the line to take the checkered flag and spins out very dramatically indeed. Be happy that wasn't the lap before. But Jorge Barrio wins then from Rodriguez and Ternoni to complete an Obsidian 2 and 3. So it's perfect result for the championship leaders, who will come away from the Nürburgring with a brilliant amount of points and a hefty championship lead.
Cadena as well. Is very happy with that result, as he should be. That's very, very good for his team. Obviously, Plus G Escuderia currently in 7th. That's going to boost them up into the playoff places. You can see now coming up 11th and 12th, crossing the line now is Jean-Martin. Just crosses the line. There we go for 2 AGT drivers in the end. Garcia and Schneider finished 10th and 11th. Gutting for Garcia. It's, as you said, Adam, a race of what could have been, but I think they're going to have to try and take the positives of how competitive they were today and move that into the next race.
Absolutely. I 100% agree with you there, Connor. It's going to be gutting Caleb Hyde. He crosses the line. He'll be gutted with the result that he's had. It's, again, another case of what could have been. It's just like, it's been like that through the whole championship, really. But yeah, coming into the Hockenheim ring in 2 weeks' time, I believe. Yeah, 2 weeks' time. Coming into the Hockenheim ring, it's a 45-minute race in the GTE cars, so a different style of car, but these guys have got to take the positives away. Obviously, most likely be a different driver lineup for the team, so but morale, especially for Obsidian, will be incredibly high. Once again, they've led the championship at the moment from start to finish, I believe. So, can they keep this form up, and are they going to take the championship victory come the end of the season?
Obsidian are certainly putting themselves into the bookies' positive note here. I think they're definitely looking like a competitive team. 2nd and 3rd, respectively, for Rodriguez and Ternoni today. Only beaten by, of course, Barrio for a Sporting Team Competizione. And I think they're going to be disappointed with today, despite winning the race. Of course, Norbert having that spin that took out one of the Iridium cars from contention as well. Nothing that either driver could really do. I think it was more of a racing incident that unfortunately ended the race for both drivers. But it's certainly looking like the momentum is in Obsidian Racing right now.
Yeah, certainly. And I'm just trying to figure out what their points lead will be. They'll take 95 points away from this race, and they have a 6-point lead. I believe they'll have around a 51-point lead coming out of this race. So we'll look then at the classification of this race. Jorge Barrio in 1st, Sporting Competición, great result for him, but he'll be ruining, his teammate will be ruining what could have been, with Antonio Rodriguez and Juan Pablo Ternoni completing the top 3 of the 2 Obsidian racing drivers. Will be thrilled with that result. Alejandro Cadena then for Plus G Escuderia in 4th, followed by Jose Rodriguez for the Era 41 SRT team. Then we've got Gonzalo Calvo, Jorge De Arza, Agustin Berablanco in P5, P6, P7, and P8. David Jimenez, Mikel Garcia round off the top 10. Then in the top 20, we have Alan Schneider. It's a good result from him in P11, then Inigo Bea in P12, followed by the 2nd Era 41 car of Juan Carlos Martin. Borja Vilches will be, I think he'll be quite content with that result in P14, followed by Carlos Ruiz in 15, and Caleb Hyde, he'll be ruining that result in P16 for Iridium, followed by Jaime Lopez Prieto in P17 and Javier Ramos in P18. Then William Cabrera and Adrian Azcarate in round off the top 20.
21st then. So you got first San Martin for TRC. That's a much better result for TRC. They're ahead of a lot of the teams they're fighting at the bottom, so that's good for them. Then 22nd and 23rd respectively, you got Sergio Arantriga and Alberto Model. Borgio Gimenez there, he had a bit of an up and down race. It started well, but after that contact, he never really recovered. So he finished 24th in the end. Carlos Cabella for TRC as well, 7 minutes behind the lead car. So I think definitely some damage to be played for the second TRC car. Then the non-finishers then, 26th, Jose Javier Busson for Iridium, gutting for that team. They're going to be ruining what could have been, as you said, Adam. 27th and 28th, Pablo Javier Ruiz and Aitor Esquirolo. 29th, Jonathan Zamora. 30th, Ryan Norbert in the second Sport Team Competition car. Absolutely gutting with that result. No points for him, of course. The final two non-finishers, Pablo Villabale Blanco and Alejandro Trenor for IDAC Racing.
So a takeaway from this race then, Connor, Obsidian come away with a 51-point lead compared to what they came in with a 6-point lead. They'll be feeling comfortable, won't they, as they head into the final 3 races. That was the halfway point. We are halfway through the season officially now. We've got the Hockenheimring next in a couple of weeks. Then we go to Silverstone, and then we are at Catalonia for the season finale. But Obsidian will be very confident after that result.
Yeah, their whole team is going to be on cloud 9 after that. Second and third at a track that is, probably the hardest and most demanding in this championship is absolutely brilliant for them in cars that are not easy to drive. So they're going to be on cloud 9, as I said, the whole Obsidian team. But a Sporting Team Competizione, I wouldn't write them off yet. They had a bit of a shocker today with one of their cars, obviously not finishing the race, but they did still beat both Obsidian cars with one car running. And of course, the Obsidian cars never really had to worry about being overtaken, with obviously Rodriguez being in front of Tononi virtually the whole race. So Sporting Team Competition are going to be back out and raring to go next time. It's going to be such an interesting battle at the front. I think it's going to go right down to the final round.
Yes, it certainly is. And I just want to point out there, Norbert and Buisan, they made contact in Iridium and Sport Team Competition car. Is that the third race in a row that we've seen a Sport Team Competition and an Iridium car come together? I think it is.
Yeah,
I think it is. It is. So
yes.
we said that at Ulland Park, and we'll say it again. There is a bit of a intense rivalry forming between the two teams, and they're like magnets to each other.
Yeah, they can't leave each other alone. Obviously,
no, they absolutely
Park,
can't.
It was terminal for both cars, and then back at the Nürburgring GP circuit as well. There was contact on one of the final corners, of course, costing the Iridium driver the win on track. So, yeah, Sporting Team Competizione and Iridium Motorsports are really going at each other's throats, but that's going to have to wait until next round to see if that's going to continue on.
It certainly is, and I can't wait to see what happens in the next round when we head to Hockenheimring. We'll leave it there for tonight then. Thank you so much to everyone who tuned into round 4 of the Drive to Raid Club LVE Championship. Thank you to you, Connor, for commentating alongside me once again. Thank you to Carlos as well for broadcasting the race to us, and for you guys as well. And thank you to you guys for watching, and we will see you again in a couple of weeks. Bye for now.